When you're saying top tier technology content provider, what we're really talking about here is about the partners that you're working with, as opposed to kind of the typical measures of, say, scale and capability. Whilst important, it's more about who you're working with that defines who you are as a business.
Yeah, I think you are right on that. When we work together with clients, we need to find the right partners who also have the ambitions and are able to do the investments that are needed in order to continue their growth so we can grow together.
Hello and welcome to the G3 podcast. There's been a lot of growth in the iGaming industry over the last few years, new markets opening up, new products launching, and there's also been a steady stream of what I consider consolidation, reshaping the competitive landscape. But underneath all of that, there's a slightly different question that's emerging, not just how you grow, but how you scale properly and what that looks like structurally, how you make decisions and how you build something with a longer term horizon in mind. Today, I'm joined by Jonas Groes, Group Co-CEO at EveryMatrix, and that's a business that's been on has been a really strong run, and it's now very clearly setting its sight on what comes next. Jonas, great to have you with us. Let's start on a personal note. You described joining the company as something close to a dream scenario. Now your feet are under the table. How are you actually finding it?
Well, I'm enjoying it immensely, and to be honest, I think it's a super interesting industry, and it's a super interesting company that I have joined. Of course, working together with my brother, as I also allude to in the interview you were referring to, is something. I mean, he's my older brother. I known him all my life, and to be able to be so close and working so closely with an older brother that I have known my whole life, that is definitely something that I have thought, and of course also talked to my brother about for many years. And now that we are finally doing it, it's super interesting. And it's of course also, there's lots of things that we need to learn about each other. We have been used to being together as brothers and friends, and all of a sudden there's also tough decisions to take, and of course we are, as all persons are very, very different. So there are lots of things that I'm finding out about my brother in the age of 52, which is also amazing, and also something that I really cherish.
On paper, being in a co-CEO structure with your brother, that is really about trust, but there's also a reality to it where you've got to make calls quickly and stay aligned when it matters. How have you found that balance so far?
You're absolutely right. I think the trust part is essential, and that's the solid platform that is there, that we have the trust. We work from a platform of trust, and we know each other really well and trust each other 100%. So that's a foundation that is extremely important. Then you are also right, and of course I have a background in a big global company, EY. I've been very pleased with working for EY for almost 15 years. Amazing journey there. Really was a partner for 10 years and really enjoyed it. And it's clear that coming to EveryMatrix, that has seen into significant growth, as you also say, it's a different organization. It's a different structure. It's a different way of also, really, really fast decision making, and that's amazing. But it's also clear sometimes I will try to put some structure on some of the processes and make sure that we take the right decisions. And at the same time, making sure that we don't go down in our time to market space time, because we need, of course, to be clear with our new products and new services as soon as possible towards our dear clients.
There are several elements within that response that I want to pick up on. We'll discuss kind of the EY side of things, where you're a partner. You worked across government, infrastructure, large scale transformation. When you come into a company like EveryMatrix, what feels familiar and what feels completely different?
I think there are some similarities in working with really bright people, really, really engaged, bright people who who are really committing to their work. I didn't really know what to expect. Of course, again, knowing my brother and knowing the organization a little bit, it was great to actually be able to see that eagerness and nerve was there, and also, of course, I didn't doubt my brother is super intelligent, and so is the people around him. So I didn't doubt that, but to see it also in the full organization, that's really nice. Then I think there's a lot of differences, and it's clear that, yeah, for example, the governance and the way I joined EveryMatrix and as a co-CEO. So that was a new title, and I looked into it and I could see that we had like quite a lot of titles at EveryMatrix, maybe 700 out of 1,500 people. So that was a shock to me. And of course, where I come from, there was a 400,000 organization with maybe 20 different titles or something around that. So that was of course that was interesting, and I think there's some differences there. It's also a much more product-driven company, some strong products that has been developed over time, and that I really enjoy looking into and understanding together with the clients. So there are some differences where at EY it was very much client-focused. Here it's client and product-focused.
Over the years, particularly with larger organizations, it's not something you really see in our industry. Smaller ones just starting up, yes, but a company the size of EveryMatrix to have a co-CEO structure is quite unique. Are the roles and responsibilities quite clearly split between the two of you, or is it more fluid depending on the situation, particularly as you get to grips with the industry, as you say?
It's not 100% structured who have which responsibilities, but of course we are looking into me taking charge of some of the areas that I'm more familiarized with due to my EY background on the commercial part, or the part towards our accounts and clients, with some of our HR and learning parts where I've worked also at EY around. And then of course the software part where my brother is much closer to it. He will have a more predominant say there. So there are some areas that we more naturally jump into, but we discuss and talk together every day and find solutions and take decisions on a in a good and fast manner.
And when you came into the business properly, was that in the new year that you officially arrived?
Yeah, I joined officially 1st of Jan. So I'm 3 months into it, and of course I'm learning a lot. It's also clear that I come from another organization, and that's part of that's also why I did it. I also wanted to challenge myself in the age of 52, trying to start in a new industry and with a new company that I'm getting to learn and understand, and of course appreciate even higher than I did beforehand.
When you came in January and in these first kind of 3.5 months, when you came into the business properly, what stood out to you straight away? Not necessarily the obvious strengths of the business, but the areas where you thought we probably need to move on this quite quickly, because last year was a big one for the company. There was strong growth, a lot of deal activity, plenty of momentum. And the challenge there is making sure that that's something to build from rather than something you look back on. So how do you keep that momentum moving in the right direction? And what were the areas where you're looking at the business going, I think we need to move quicker there, and I think this could be optimized better?
My background and what I have done before is, of course, have a big impact on what I'm looking at and what I see, where I see something that I would do in a different manner. So that's of course crucial to state. I think there's something around some of our structures, especially on the commercial side. I have an easy time together with the CCO finding areas where we see, hey, here there are some opportunities for us, and he's truly on board in that change. So what can we do in order to be closer to our most important accounts? How can we structure the work towards our accounts in a more structured way to have more fixed formats on how we work with our clients in order to give them the best possible service, and also in order for us to get that perspective, to get the client perspective forward. It's super important that we have the mix between the product and the client, because it is a software as a service, but it's not an off the shelf. There is, due to regulations, many different ways that our clients go about their business, which is natural and where they are the experts, and we need to understand that and need to support them, but without customizing our product in a way that it cannot be scalable. Coming a bit back to what you said in the beginning about the importance of scaling our business together with our clients.
So really, internally, it's you kind of started your answer there mentioning structure and then ended it with product. So would you say it's a bit of everything? Is it structure, people, and product, or would you say it's mostly just that kind of structural element where you've identified something that can be optimized?
What I have seen is a very strong product. I have not, don't have, and again, I'm not a software engineer, but I have seen a very strong product and been showed the product and talked to clients around the product. I think there's a really, really strong platform for us to build on, where I think I can maybe give some inputs is around, okay, how do we then take this product to the clients? How do we talk to the clients around the product? How do we make sure that we get these products to the relevant clients, and that we can make sure that they can benefit from the right guidance, also from our side, the right dialogue between us and the client. There, I think I can help.
And shortly before we press record, we were talking, and well, we mentioned about kind of the wider industry being pretty active in terms of consolidation and lots of M&A. From your perspective, coming in from outside the industry, do you find that all that kind of M&A activity is something that does it strengthen the ecosystem, do you think? Or do you think that it risks limiting competition and fresh thinking?
I don't think there's a risk of the latter. I think there's a lot of also very we have a strong industry, and there are lots of people who are super, willing to look at new ways of handling. It's clear AI coming into the picture having a big impact. So I think there's lots of things going on also with some of the smaller companies. I also think that it's natural that there are some kind of consolidation, and you see that in most industries, and I think it's natural that we also see this in our industry. Of course, a company like ours, who are looking at the turnkey solutions, are of course interested in understanding what's going on in different areas within our industry, and where do we most relevant play a role in order to be able to support our clients with turnkey solutions.
Of course, I understand that you won't be able to say too much of kind of future looking in terms of EveryMatrix, but in a general sense, where do you see EveryMatrix sitting within that conversation? Are you looking to play an active role in that consolidation that's going on within the industry, or are you looking to stay a bit more selective, if you will?
No, I think we are definitely, and we have already for years played a role also buying companies, and I think that will probably continue. I think we have succeeded well in adopting some of the companies that we have bought, and of course other areas where we can work a bit more on really getting the value out of these acquisitions. But I see that it's in order. What have grown us to this level is, of course, that we have been able, that they, before I joined, have been able to both have a strong product and then continue to develop that by both developing internally, but also by uh, acquisitions of strong actors within this industry. And it's also clear I'm here in order to continue the growth of EveryMatrix, and that we scale our business even more. And that is, of course, to be one of the movers and shakers at the industry. That's clearly our ambition, also looking forward. And I think if we don't grow, if we don't continue our growth, well, then then there will be somebody else who does it, and probably we will at some time be bought from that company. So I would rather be one of the companies who are also in the future uh, are one of the leaders within this industry.
It was around this time last year that myself and my colleague came down to London to visit the new London office, and since that point, it's just got, as you say, it's gone from strength to strength on the product and marketing side, on market side, should I say, not marketing. You've made some quite deliberate moves. I'm thinking live dealer. You've expanded further into Africa. It feels like LATAM is next, dot, 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 question mark. But how do you decide where to really lean in versus where to stay disciplined, both in terms of product verticals and in terms of market expansion?
That's a good question. And it's clear that there are, of course, an element of opportunism. Well, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Opportunism. Yeah. So we need, of course, we will still be, looking at what is possible. But as you also alert to, we also need to stay disciplined and say, here we see opportunities. If I look back over the last year or two, I'm amazed with the development that we have had also in Europe. The former state companies in both Denmark and Norway have joined us. We are supporting them as partners, and we see also in the UK a rapid growth of our footprint there. So I think in Hungary. So I see that in Europe we're really having a strong footprint, and I also think there's still a big opportunity to grow further there. We have super interesting conversations and also things signed that unfortunately I cannot address here. But I think it's a super interesting market, and of course an area where we're already big, but where there's also still potential to grow even more. That's one of the areas that's also maybe the area that is where we have the strongest platform and where it's most, just continuing what we're already doing, scaling that. Whereas if you look at, and you're right, the African market is super interesting. We have really grown our footprint, but from a very small footprint to a marginal larger footprint. There's a big opportunity and something that we are looking into. Latter also super relevant and interesting. The US, of course, regulated in a different way, but also super interesting opportunities that we are looking into.
And something that has really struck out is this kind of 2030 ambition. It's something that's very clearly defined about becoming a top tier global technology provider. When you think about that kind of personally, what does top tier actually mean to you when it comes to being a global technology provider?
No, for me, I think there I'm very much using the same. Every matrix is in that way very similar to EY. We also serve the top tier, and because that's where the fun and development are. That's where the most important and best companies are course, there is development. It's not like it's a static picture. You also know that, of course. But that we can serve those big, important clients, that's where we want to be. We don't want to be in the nitty-gritty of small firms. And we want to partner up with the biggest companies in this industry.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that is something that is constantly kind of fed back to me from different interviewees at EveryMatrix. This idea of it's something that has really struck with me, how particularly in the commercial team, the message is always about getting those tier one operator clients. It's about getting big business, and there is almost not a disinterest, but less of an interest in the tier 2, tier 3 providers. So when you're saying top tier technology content provider, what we're really talking about here is about the partners that you're working with, as opposed to kind of the typical measures of, say, scale and capability. Whilst important, it's more about who you're working with that defines who you are as a business.
Yeah, I think you are right on that. Of course, as said, it is a dynamic industry, and changes will happen. We don't want to be on the back of yesterday's heroes, but it's also clear that when we work together with clients, we need to find the right partners who also have the ambitions and the investments, are able to do the investments that are needed in order to continue their growth, so we can grow together. I think one of the things I really like about joining EveryMatrix is that we are so much, the synergies between us and our clients are so clear. If we do well together, it will be amazing for them, and it will be amazing for us as well. So there we need to be a bit structured in choosing the right partners, so that we don't use a lot of time integrating solutions towards clients where the revenue would never be of relevance towards the larger picture.
And it's also very rare to have a company within this industry, particularly a company the size of EveryMatrix, that takes a 5-year horizon, if you will, like looking towards 2030. That's typically not something that's done. It's pretty much always, right, what's on the roadmap for this year, what we're going to do before ICE next year, what we're going to do before the annual year end. What does that thinking in that long-term view do in terms of almost forcing you as a business to do something differently today? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, but I think that's super important, and it's also, part of me joining here, and what we're looking into together, Ebbe and I, is of course also that how do we see this business in the future? What is it? Where do we put the needle? And I think that's super important to me, because that's the only way. And and it's not like we are finished. It's not like we have been through. If you asked a random person in EveryMatrix, then they wouldn't all be able to place where are we then going towards 2030. But that's where we're going, and that's what we want to do, involve the organization. Something that we're going to use some time on, also saying, hey, what is it we want, and how do you see yourself in this journey? So that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, working with the organization as a whole, seeing, okay, how are we reaching these targets that are very bluntly put. That's a clear target. We want to be the top tier. We really want to have these numbers, which is great. But how are we going to deliver on that? And what does it mean? Why are we doing it? Also, as said earlier, of course, to be one of the predominant players also going forward. So we will not, be bought from somebody else, but will be the key player that I talked about before. So we need to get that overall ambition into a strategy that the whole organization sees themselves in. And that's some of the work that I really look forward to.
A final question for me would be that, somewhat contradicting my last question, but to bring it back to the near term, over the next, call it 12 months, what are the things that really matter in your kind of ambition to become the company you want the business to be in 2030? What would you want to look back on this time next year and say, okay, yeah, we got that right in the last 12 months?
I think there's something on our approach towards existing clients, on our account management, as we would call it at EY, and that we also call it at EveryMatrix. So how are we a more structured and more engaging partnership with our clients accounts? I think, as you also say, the sales team has done amazing to continue that continue that growth, and of course being able to then support. It's also clear we are also really pushing the organization when we sign so many new clients, when our existing clients grow. That means that the organization is also really need to keep up, and of course in developing a way where we can scale those solutions and those integrations with our clients, so that we can do it in an even more efficient manner, utilizing AI in that journey. That's something that we're looking into right now, and that I really believe will have an effect in the way we are driving our integrations in a year from now.
Jonas, it's been a really interesting conversation. It feels like it's a business that you've joined that's a really important part in its journey. There's so much momentum behind EveryMatrix, but there's also some quite deliberate choices, I'd say, about how you scale from here, which I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking us through it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.